Welcome to Stolen, the world's greatest eminent domain podcast. Legally, the government has the power to take your property, but most people don't know what to do when it actually happens. If you don't respond correctly, you could walk away with far less than you're owed. And when that happens, in effect, the government steals your property. Our mission is simple: protect property owners, make sure they get the compensation they deserve. The government will steal your property, but only if you let them. Hey, I'm Chad Brown. I'm your host of Stolen, the Eminent Domain Land Condemnation podcast, where we talk about all things related to property rights when the government takes your property. So, this is my co-host, Caleb Wheeler. Caleb, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me back, Chad.
Yeah.
You know I work here, but thank you.
You have to come back. You don't have a choice. You put choice on it. It's like you volunteer.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm happy to visit you.
You lead our eminent domain land condemnation practice group. You tremendous understanding, and we're in a topic today that you really are strong in.
Sure.
Residential appraisals. So we last time we sort of talked about the pre-litigation process, and we looked at what's happening in an eminent domain case from the time the government decides there's a public need and they're going to actually take property, all the way through to sort of where the offers come from right-of-way agents. But a central part of the process, both the pre-litigation and post-litigation in cases that you actually try in court, is the role of the appraisal. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because I don't think it's an overstatement to say that the appraisal or appraisals, mm-hmm. in a case where there's multiple ones, are the central piece of evidence in an eminent domain or condemnation case, a central piece of evidence that probably has the most impact on your ability to get just compensation. You agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that.
Okay, very good. So, you don't have to agree with me. I mean, no, you have to be here, but you don't have to agree.
I definitely agree with that issue.
So what is an appraisal?
Appraisal is simply this. So first off, appraisals can be done for virtually anything. All right, anything that would be assigned value. An appraisal is essentially a quasi-scientific method of discovering what is a fair value for a specific object.
Okay.
Now, sometimes you think about Antiques Roadshow, at the old show. I mean, that's actually kind of before my time, but I do remember Antiques Roadshow to some degree. They used to assign value to things at a random. So that in itself could be a form of an appraisal. And so, yeah, it's just a report, a writing that basically assigns value to something, namely real estate.
So like when you just got married, you gave your wife a diamond. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you get it appraised?
I did not get it appraised.
Probably should.
Should I have done that?
You probably should have done that. But that'd be an
insurance on it. Oh, okay.
That'd be an example of an appraisal.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, essentially.
But in real estate cases, we need an appraisal of the property.
That's exactly.
Okay, so a lot of people are familiar with real estate appraisals because you just bought a house too, right? Yeah. So let's just use that as an example. So when you bought your house recently, mm-hmm. What was the role of the appraisal in that process?
Yeah, so when you're buying a house, this kind of also speaks back to my real estate closing experience as well. One of the biggest things we worry about when you're buying a house, if you're the attorney or you're the real estate agent or the homeowner trying to sell it, or the homeowner or the person trying to buy the house, is the appraisal going to come back equal in value to what the purchase price is or more? Okay. And why that's important is because obviously a mortgagee, a bank, can't put a loan on the property if the appraisal is for less than the purchase price. So that's kind of how it plays into that scenario, is that it's a safeguard for a mortgage company to make sure their interest is protected.
So the bank's gonna give you money to buy the house. Mm-hmm. The security interest in the loan is going to be the home, but they want to make sure that the home is valuable enough to be able to cover the cost of the money that they're going to lend you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And most people who come to us are familiar with the use of appraisals in the bank loan context. In fact, when it comes to real estate, a lot of times that's their only experience with an appraisal. So our client comes to us, their properties, let's just use a road example again, because with most of our residential cases, that's what we're dealing with, wide roading projects. So they've taken part of their land. And so what is the role of the appraisal in the eminent domain process, because just telling me what the property value is worth doesn't really get us to how the property can be justly compensated, because the property that we're ending up with is smaller than the property we're starting with, right?
Right.
So how does that appraisal process work specifically in the eminent domain process?
Yeah, absolutely. So the appraisal process in the eminent domain context is really about the only way that you can value the property that's being taken. And so generally how it works in the eminent domain context is the appraiser is given a specific scope of work. They're told exactly what to do, which is different than in the home purchasing context. In that context, you're just trying to find the overall value of the property.
Right.
In this context, the appraiser's job is to take the overall value of the property less the value of the property after they get through taking the property needed for the government project. Right. So there's two different values, and the difference in that is the proper compensation.
So, for example, just using really simple numbers, if your property were worth $100 and they took 10% of your property, theoretically, the property they took might be worth $10.
Sure.
In a very simplistic,
leaving you with $90 total.
Leaving you with not a property worth $90 and a check for 10.
That's right.
But it's just not that simple, is it?
No, sir. It is not that simple, because then they also have to figure in damages to other things, other improvements to the property, such as fences, sheds, driveways.
So is that taking place in the appraisal itself as well?
Yes, it usually is.
Okay, so the appraisal in eminent domain is looking at, okay, what's the value of the property at the time of taking? What's the value of the property minus the property that's being taken?
That's right.
Plus other damages that might have come along with the taking itself. So, for example, they take 20 feet of your property and they tear down your fence that's protecting you from the road noise. That has to be factored in somehow into the, and we're going to get into this in another episode, but generally the difference though is you have a very specialized appraisal where they're trying to look at a before and after value. Your property smaller than it was before the taking. How do they properly compensate you for what they're actually taking? Right. So tell us about it, because we talked about right-of-way agents last time, and what you realize about the right-of-way agent is they don't, on their face, necessarily have any of the qualifications that would make them the ideal person to have the job. Some of them do. I mean, like,
sure,
like, there's good ones and bad ones. Okay, yeah. Don't give me stupid comments that I know that. Okay, so but what about appraisers? Because I mean, that's a very, very specific skill set. I'm assuming they just can't hire anybody that wants to be the appraiser.
No, absolutely not.
So what are their qualifications? Where do these men and women sort of get their training, and what are they qualified in that makes them someone that can be involved in this process and hope to get a fair result?
Absolutely. So interestingly enough, the process to becoming an appraiser is a long, arduous one, to say the least. They're required to take initially 75 hours. They have to, and that's just to become a registered trainee. Oh, wow. With the state. That's just to become a trainee. Okay. And then you have to do about 1,000 hours of supervised appraisal work under a licensed or certified appraiser after that.
Okay.
And then another 75 plus hours of education just to become a licensed appraiser.
Right.
Licensed appraisers, though, can only do single family residential homes up to a certain amount of square footage. I'm not sure what that square footage is, but it's somewhere right in there. There's a limit to what they can do. After that, you have a certified residential appraiser, and there's no limits with square footage on the house they can do, but they are limited to residential properties only. And after that, you have a certified appraiser, which is they can do anything. They can appraise commercial, whatever. Okay. And you have different designations. So the Appraisal Institute is a national organization of appraisers, and they have special designations.
Right.
And one of the most
go ahead. No, go ahead.
And one of the most prestigious ones is the MAI certification, and that one requires you to have a 4-year degree.
So, in an eminent, let's just stick to our basic residential eminent domain case. What of all those different levels, what is being required in terms of appraiser qualifications to create this super important document of your case.
So generally what you were seeing is certified appraisal, at least a certified residential appraisal and up.
Okay.
It could be an MAI certification, which is the highest level.
Right.
They could do them. And a lot of times they do them. But generally, we're looking at least that level's qualification.
So if you go back to sort of understanding where we are in the process, because appraisers can be involved both in pre-litigation as well as after taking. But one of the things that people should understand is this isn't like some newbie appraiser who's actually involved in this. Now we have a whole episode about whether we agree with the numbers they come up with, and that's a whole different talk. But just in terms of confidence in the process, because I want to be fair. I don't know, sometimes maybe I'm not, but I want to try to. I'd like to think that I'm fair. Yeah. Okay. The reality is that the appraiser who's being engaged is someone who has a pretty extensive set of qualifications and understanding, because this isn't just a basic appraisal. This is a pretty complex appraisal that has to be done. You're appraising often in a partial taking a portion of property, not the whole property, which makes it which makes it more difficult. But to start with, though, the people who are doing this, by and large, are pretty skilled people.
Oh, they're very skilled people. They have to be. I mean, it's the process to becoming just a certified residential appraiser or a licensed appraiser is long. It takes a lot of effort. Again, I just said 1,000 hours is required just to get to that point. I mean, an analogy is this, Chad. I mean, you have engineers that are hired by the state to create these road plans. They're highly qualified.
Yeah,
a lot of them have taken the ME exam to become an engineer, but they still don't understand. In their minds, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And then the attorneys for the state are like, whoa, wait a minute. You're getting ready to go through like 5 people's houses with this straight line. So let's try to let's add some curves here. So regardless of how qualified they are, yeah, they're still going to be employees of the state. Okay. But be fair, but we're fair-minded, but we like to advocate for our clients.
Yeah, sure.
Nonetheless.
So we have this person who's pretty qualified appraiser. I mean, they're qualified. What briefly is, because I don't want to get into the weeds on this, because we're going to talk about appraisals in the future, because we're going to break them down. We're going to use some case studies. And that's something else I don't think we're probably about. We're going to do case studies where we actually go through real cases and look at what happened, what we thought the problems were, how we got the offers up. But generally, what's this appraiser going to do?
Yeah.
What's your property owner know that the appraiser is going to do in trying to come up with this initial number? Because that's usually where it comes from.
Yeah. Right. So remember this, you have the right to remain silent as a homeowner. Okay. That applies to homeowners as well, not just criminals. So they have the right to remain silent. So when the appraiser comes to your house,
you're not suggesting that sometimes our clients or not our clients, our clients wouldn't do this. Not after we've hired, not if they've hired.
No, sir, if you're not.
But you're not suggesting that sometimes people talk too much to the appraiser and hurt their case because they don't have someone advising them?
That's exactly
right.
Okay,
all right. So you don't have to talk to the appraiser, but let's talk about what they do.
Yeah, like that shit's been a tree fell on it last year and I fixed it, but I think it still got some issues with the underpinning. I don't know. So don't do that. Let's keep your mouth shut. So with that being said, so they'll come to your house. First and foremost, they'll come to your house. They will do an on-site visit. They'll take pictures of your house. And sometimes they'll go into your house, take pictures to get an understanding.
Especially if they're taking the whole house. Like if it's a full taking, it's going to look more like a bank loan appraisal.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. If it's a full taking, they got to take the whole thing. So it's going to look more like a bank loan appraisal. So they have to come in your house, take pictures, outside your house, take pictures. You can be with them if you'd like. The homeowner can be with them. Your attorney can be with them to make sure they don't steal anything. I'm just kidding. But make sure that, you want somebody to be with you. You don't have to. So with that being said, they'll do that and then they'll go pull all the public records regarding your home. So what do you mean, Kel? Septic permits, zoning, deeds, mortgage documents. They're going to pull everything pertaining to your property that's public record. And then they're going to start pulling comps. What is a comp? A comp is simply this. It's a comparable sale in time, place, manner to your home. So a comp is going to be something, hopefully, if it's a good comp, it's going to be close in time to when your property was sold, not when your property was sold, but close in time to when the actual taking is taking place.
So, but just to stop there a minute, one of the things people need to understand is that the the appraiser is supposed to use comparable sales of comparable properties to determine the valuation of your property and then determine the valuation of the damage to your property. That is, what's the part they're taking.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. So then they're going to, again, pull comparable sales. I call them comps. So for future reference. And then they're going to begin compiling this information. And they have what we call an adjustment sheet in their appraisal, which is where they make the adjustments. So they're supposed to adjust based on different improvements that your property might have as opposed to some of these other comparable sales. So do you have a 1-car garage or a 2-car garage? Okay. If you have a 2-car garage, then does the comparable still have a 2-car garage or 1-car garage or no garage? Yeah. So they're going to be adjusting that price up and down. So now it starts to sound complicated, right? Because now we're getting into the adjustment part. But this is the part that I learned as a real estate agent to value properties for sale. Right. This is an important part of it.
So this is not the topic of today.
Sure.
But one of the things that is often disputed in these cases is the quality of the comps that are used, or if they use the right comps at all.
Yes.
I think one of the things people need to understand is there's actually very specific rules that the Department, the DOT, the Department of Transportation has implemented that appraisers are bound by in determining which comp sales can use. Can they use raw land? Can they use property that's been improved? There's time frames of when the properties are supposed to be used. There's regional adjustments, like you can't just go pull a property from Georgia if we're here in North Carolina. So just understand that the appraiser is going to put together this appraisal, and it's going to, in the large part, have comp sales in it. And oftentimes, it's so funny, like a lot of why people contact us. In another whole episode, we talk about like the ways that we assess offers, appraisals, the actions taken often by the right-of-way agent in making the offer, and where we find discrepancies maybe with what would equal just compensation.
Yes.
But at the same time, having them understand there is a very specific set of rules that are supposed to be followed. And usually our client has no idea what they are. No, they don't have any idea. No, sir. And just think about strategically what a disadvantage it is to be dealing with a right-of-way agent who this is their full-time job. Whether they're qualified or not, it's a different story because some of them are, some of them aren't. You got a right-of-way agent. You've got engineers who have made decisions about the plan, all highly educated, understanding what's going on, traffic flow or whatever it is they're adjusting. You've got appraisers in this situation, not a newbie appraiser. You've got an appraiser with typically years and years of experience, and they're coming to you with this complex appraisal, and you're supposed to look at it and determine whether you think it's accurate or not.
That's right.
I just think it's crazy that so many people believe that they can navigate that on their own. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I just think people, especially in a residential taking or especially a partial taking, need to understand the players involved know what they're doing, but often are biased.
Right.
And so you've got biased people who have a tremendous amount of knowledge beyond what you have, creating the foundation for your offer that's going to determine whether you're compensated fairly or not for taking your property. And I just think people need to understand the appraiser is oftentimes questionably neutral as well, but they're very knowledgeable, and you're going to get a very complex document. Average appraisal in an eminent domain case is frequently over 100 pages.
It can be, especially if it's a good one.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a good one. What I will say is, in kind of echoing off what you just said, is that I had the great privilege of taking real estate transactional law under Judge Chris Dillon, the appellate court judge here in North Carolina. Great class. At one time he owned his own mortgage company. Okay. And he said this in class. He said, appraisers are hired gun hands.
Yeah.
They're hired gun hands. And so with that being said, we have to understand that even though these are very educated people, and even though they're very knowledgeable and are supposed to be neutral in the sense that they're following the rules.
Right.
Okay. in my opinion, in my humble opinion, that's exactly what they are. They're still hired gun hands. Yeah. So it's a bit, these cases really center around not necessarily do you know what you're doing, but are you going to be able to stand up in court and give evidence in a educated, succinct way that will be accepted as evidence first and foremost, which requires qualifications, because you have to qualify as a witness first when you're an expert witness. That's a whole other issue.
Yeah, but I think, I think it's just important that people understand, once again, the appraiser candidly, they would all sit here and tell you they're neutral. But the reality is it's very, very difficult to read the appraisals that we read in our clients' cases and not walk away feeling like maybe there's some underlying bias there by the person who's writing their paycheck, who's also the person who's on the other side of us in navigating this. We're out of time, and it's more stuff I want to talk about. One final question, though. So what about in representing your clients? I mean, can they hire their own appraiser?
Absolutely. And in many cases, we encourage that, because even though they can be somewhat expensive, if we do a cost benefit analysis and we think, oh, I think you're going to be benefited by having your own appraisal,
right,
then we 100% go for that and have had great success with that.
Yeah, I know recently we had a case where a smaller group of takings, it was smaller development takings.
Yeah.
And literally, like, our client, all of his neighbors settled for a relatively small amount of money. And he's like, I'm not doing that. I think my property's worth more than this. And we're like, hey, man, we agree.
Yeah.
We've got an appraisal. Sure enough, 3, we're not going below the appraisal emails later. We settled it for our appraisal amount, which was, 5 or 6 times what he had offered. And I just think it's important for people to understand there's these really skilled things called appraisals that are being a central part of what you're doing. And you need to understand them, but also understand there's a way to counter them and reestablish what is actually just compensation using the same tools that the other side uses.
Exactly right.
Very good. All right, we're out of time. Another episode of Stolen in the books. We appreciate you watching. Appraisals are a big deal. We're going to do some more episodes where we talk about, we were going to talk about it. We didn't even get to the components of the appraisal and the different parts, and how there's different valuation of different parts of the appraisal, and permanent utility easements and temporary construction easements and these fancy acronyms that have we didn't even get to any of that. We will, promise. Subscribe. Tune in next time, and we'll dive deep into one of these eminent domain land condemnation projects. Till then, Caleb, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, take care. Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.